Howdy y'all, and welcome back to another episode of SmoothBrainEDH, where we make the smoothest plays with the biggest brains. This week, we have some brand new commanders that we've never had on the channel before, so let's see what everyone brought to the table today. Up first is Jason, playing Wylie Duke, Atten Hero. This is a Value Town deck, looking to tap and untap Wylie Duke to draw a bunch of cards and gain a bunch of life. Next up is Shelby, on Kethis, the Hidden Hand. This deck is a Legends Matter deck with some self-mill and reanimation aspects to return powerful legendary cards to play. Our third player today is Seth, playing Kibo, Uktabi Prince. This monkey wants to give out bananas to his friends and let his monkey army grow big and strong once his friends eat those bananas. Last up is Alex, playing the partner pairing of the 11th Doctor and Amy Pond. This deck is a suspend deck, looking to take advantage of both commanders' abilities to play impactful spells for free. We're about to get to the game, but before that, go ahead and like and let us know down in the comments which deck you're rooting for. Links to our socials and deck lists are also in the description below. Our channel is partnered with Dragon Shield, so if you're looking to pick up any new sleeves or magic-related product, check out our affiliate link down in the description. Use the code SMOOTH5 at checkout for 5% off your order. We're also partnered with Inked Gaming. Check out the affiliate link down below if you want to pick up any custom playmats. Now, on to the gameplay.
It looks like Alex wins the die roll, and he'll start off with Mystic Monastery and pass. Jason plays Command Tower and passes, and Shelby will play Lush Portico and Surveil one to the top, then cast Mox Amber, and then pass to Seth. And you better believe we see that mountain into Curd Ape, and then the turn is passed to Alex, where he'll start off with the Plains and then cast Lightning Greaves and then pass to Jason, who will jam a Forest and then Sylvan Library and pass the turn to Shelby. Shelby will play Takenuma and tap it to cast Soul Ring. Then with the Soul Ring and his untapped green land, he'll cast 3 visits. He says he's going to find a bayou and passes while searching, and Seth starts off with a Forest. Then he'll tap for 2 and cast his Yavimaya Steel Crusher. Then he moves to combat and pressures the Sylvan Library player with 2 damage, and then he'll pass the turn to Alex, who starts off by shocking in a Steam Fence. Then he'll tap for 3 and cast the 11th Doctor, who is immediately Lightning Grieved. Then he'll move to combat and swing for 3 at Shelby, who takes it. Combat damage trigger, and Alex will suspend Blightsteel Colossus with 12 counters on it. The turn is then passed to Jason, and on draw step, he'll pay 4 life to Sylvan Library. Then he'll play Sunpetal Grove as land for turn, and tap for 3 and cast his commander, Wylie Duke. And then he passes. Shelby starts off with an Overgrown Farmland as land for turn. Then he'll tap for 4 and cast Toski, Bearer of Secrets. This turns his Mox Amber online, which will let him cast his commander, Kethis. The turn is then passed to Seth, and he'll start off with a basic mountain as land for turn. He'll then tap for 3 and cast the Uktabi Prince himself, Kibo. The turn is then passed to Alex, and the clock ticks down on the Colossus. Then he'll play a Prairie Stream as land for turn. Alex will then cast his own Soul Ring, and then he'll cast Rogue's Gloves, and then a Time Beetle. Greaves are then moved over to Beetle Buddy, and then he'll move to combat, and Seth gets stick bugged. He can't block it, so Alex gets to time travel. The turn is then passed to Jason, and no life is paid to Sylvan Library. After this, he'll cast and equip Paradise Mantle onto Wylie Duke, and then when Wylie is tapped for mana, Jason gets to draw a card and gain a life. Then he'll cast Amara, Soul of the Accord, and then play Holdout Settlement as land for turn. He'll then use it to tap Amara for a green mana, which makes a 1/1 with lifelink. Then he'll cast Ulvenwald Tracker with that green mana, and then pass to Shelby. And he starts off with an Urborg as land for turn. And bro's got a lot of mana, so he slams Shieldred the Whispering One. After this, he'll move to combat, and he swings Toski at Jason. Now, because Shieldred's out, Jason does not want to chump with his fodder, so he'll just take the 1, and Shelby draws a card. The turn is then passed to Seth, and on upkeep, he will sacrifice Curd Ape. After this, he'll tap for 3 and cast Cultivate. This will tutor him 2 forests, one goes to the battlefield tapped, and the other he'll play as land for turn. He'll then activate Kibo to give everyone a banana token. He'll immediately sacrifice it, and then tap his forest to cast 3 visits. And this will find him a Cinderglade. Then he'll pass the turn to Alex, and he'll sack the bug to Shieldred. Then after this, he equips the gloves to the Doctor. Then the Doctor will make himself unblockable this turn, and then put on some Lightning Greaves. Then after this, he moves to combat and says Shieldred Havers will take 3 damage, so Shelby takes 3 commander. And upon connecting, Alex will draw a card, and then suspend Aeon Chronicler with 5 counters. Post-combat, Alex will play Sunhome as land for turn, then he'll use his Nanner to cast Faithless Looting. This will trigger Kibo, and then he'll draw 2 cards and discard Frantic Search and Ponder. Then he'll tap for 2 and cast Psychic Paper, and then pass the turn to Jason, where on upkeep he'll sacrifice his 1/1 to Shieldred, and then pay 8 life to keep 2 extra cards from Sylvan Library. Then he'll tap his commander for a mana to draw a card and gain a life. Then he'll play Lush Portico as land for turn and surveil Squib Ranger to the graveyard. The mana he floated off of his commander tapping was green, and he uses it to cast Boreal Druid. After this, he'll move to combat and attack Alex for 2 with Amara, and when she becomes tapped, he makes a 1/1 with lifelink. And Alex takes 2. Post-combat, he'll tap for 3 and cast Drum Bellower. Then I'll pass the turn to Shelby, and on untap, he untaps his creatures. And Shelby starts his turn off by going to combat. He has a 6/6 Swamp Walker that can hit anybody thanks to Urborg, so Shieldred goes at Jason and Toski goes at Alex. Neither can block, so they take their damage and Shelby draws 2. Then post-combat, Shelby will tap for 4 and cast Guardian Project. Then he'll play Caves of Koilos as land for turn, and then he'll tap out and sack his banana for a mana to cast Old Stickfingers X is 4. And there's another Kibo trigger. There's also a cast trigger, and Shelby will reveal off the top of his library till he reveals 4 creatures. First is Carador, second is Safi, Eric's daughter, third is Old Rutstein, and fourth is Jorah's Familiar. So those all go to the graveyard, and the rest of the revealed cards go to the bottom in a random order. Shelby will then pass the turn, but on end step, Jason will stop to activate Wylie Duke to float a mana and draw a card and gain a life. After this happens, Seth decides when priority gets back to him, he wants to Nature's Claim the Paradise Mantle. 4 cards a turn cycle is pretty good. And there's also a Kibo trigger. Then he'll move to his turn, and on upkeep, he sacrifices his Steel Crusher to Shieldred. Then in his first main, he'll cast Torian Mauler. After this, he'll move to combat and swing Kibo at Alex. There is an attack trigger, and Alex is forced to sacrifice an artifact. He goes for the gloves, and Kibo will trigger and grow in size. Alex still has no blockers, so he's forced to take 6 commander damage here. And then the turn is passed to Alex. On his upkeep, he draws an extra card from ticking down on Aeon Chronicler. Oh yeah, and the Doctor is sacrificed. And then Alex will just pass the turn to Jason, who sacrifices Boreal Druid on upkeep, and he won't pay any life to Sylvan Library. Then on his main phase, he'll tap for 4 and cast Elven Chorus. Then he'll tap 4 of his creatures to cast Sereth the Viper's Fang from the top of his library. And he gets a 1/1 with lifelink for tapping Amara. He'll then cast a Finhorn Elves from the top of his library. Seth initially misses this Torian Mauler trigger, but he'll catch it later. Jason will then move to combat and bonk Alex for 4 commander, and he just has to take it. Post-combat, Wylie Duke is tapped for a mana to draw a card and gain a life, and then Horizon Canopy is played as land for turn. Jason will then cast a Stony Brook Schoolmaster, and he does use a banana, but since he taps his Horizon Canopy for a white, this only nets him 1 life, and also Kibo trigger. Jason will then pass the turn, but Seth will stop on his end step to cast Beast Within, targeting Shieldred. So she go boom, and Shelby get 3/3. Then we'll move to Shelby's turn, where he starts off with an Arcane Signet. Then he'll move to combat, and well, he got a Toski, 4 creatures, and somebody with no blockers. So he'll declare 4 creatures at Alex for a total of 12 damage, who just has to take it. And Shelby will draw 4 cards. Post-combat, he'll play Underground Mortuary as land for turn and surveil Iganjo to the graveyard. Shelby then decides he doesn't like this board, and he can rebuild it better than anyone else, so he decides to slam Massacre Girl. And because of all of Jason's 1/1s, there will be more than enough -1/-1s to just wipe the board. So Jason decides to respond to it by tapping Wylie Duke for a mana to draw a card and gain a life. Jason will also float a bunch of mana, and he gets another 1/1 to ensure that everything dies. Then Massacre Girl resolves, and there's 2 ETB triggers, and Shelby decides to also respond to these by channeling Beseiju to blow up Elven Chorus. Jason responds to this by casting Legolas's Quick Reflexes. This will untap his Ulvenwald tracker, and then with his floating mana, he'll activate it again to have Wylie Duke fight Massacre Girl, and the 1 damage from the reflexes does not matter. Then the ETB triggers resolve, and everything gets -1/-1, which kills something like 8 1/1s, which gives everything else an additional -8/-8 until end of turn, which kills more things, and so on and so forth. TLDR, board is wiped. Shelby will then pass the turn to Seth, who starts off with a Rogue's Passage. And of course, Kibo will hit the field again, and then he'll tap for an additional 2 and cast Liquid Metal Coating. The turn is then passed to Alex, and on upkeep, things tick down, and he draws an additional card. And you know what, this is a much safer board to resolve Amy Pond on, so that's exactly what he does. And then he'll activate Sunhome targeting her. She now has double strike, so then he'll equip Lightning Greaves to give her Shroud and Haste. After this, he'll move to combat and swing at Shelby for 2 double strike. And each time she connects, she'll take 2 counters off a suspended card, and so Alex decides to take 4 off of Blightsteel Colossus. That's getting scary. The turn is then passed to Jason, and he pays 8 life to Sylvan Library. Then he'll tap for 5 and cast Wylie Duke again. Then using Holdout Settlement, Wylie Duke is tapped for a green mana, which draws Jason a card and gains him a life, and then he'll cast Arcane Signet. After this, he'll play a Plains' Land for turn and use it to cast Mother of Runes. Then with his Arcane Signet, he'll cast Avacyn's Pilgrim and pass to Shelby, who will start off by casting Captain Sisay. And then with her out, Shelby's able to slam Primeval's Glorious Rebirth, which returns all legendary permanents back to the battlefield. There is a slight oversight here because this also returns Massacre Girl. And because Jason has 2 1/1s out, this will restart the chain reaction and just wipe the board again. But before that resolves, he'll draw 8 cards from Guardian Project, then mill a card with Old Rutstein, it's a reanimate so he gets a blood token, and then Safi Eriksdottir was one of the creatures returned to the battlefield, so still in response to the Massacre Girl trigger, Shelby will sacrifice her to make Shieldred come back when she dies. So then Massacre Girl will resolve, 3 1/1s will die, which gives an additional -3/-3, which kills even more creatures, and so on and so forth, and then once again the board is wiped. Post-combat, Shelby will play Dark Depths' land for turn, then cast Reki, the History of Kamigawa, and pass the turn. Oh yeah, and he's got a discard down to hand size. Let's see what it is.
Sunpetal Grove, Liesa, Forgotten Archangel, Sir Conrad, Glissa, Sunslayer, Indatha Triumph, and I guess finally a Talisman of Resilience. Alright, that's my turn.
Moving on to Seth's turn, he'll just pass, because anything he casts will just have to get sacrificed. Now on Alex's turn, he'll draw 2 thanks to his Suspend Boy, and then he'll play a Mountain as land for turn, and then just also pass. And Jason starts his turn off by paying 4 life to Sylvan Library, and then he'll play a basic Plains.
Then he'll cast the Duke, who is immediately tapped by Holdout Settlement to draw and gain.
He had floated a green with Wylie, so he'll use it to cast a Lighted Halfling. Then after this, he'll cast a Land of War Elves and then pass to Shelby. On upkeep, he gets to reanimate a creature with Shieldred, and he decides to play it safe and get back Safi Eriksdottir. Then after this, he'll cast the Great Henge, and then play... oh, that's a Thespian stage. With the Dark Depths out. Oh my god, is it happening? Probably, but not yet. Shelby will then move to combat and Swamp Walk over to Jason for 6. Then post-combat, he'll cast the Kenrith's Royal Funeral.
Rest in peace, your majesties.
When it enters, he'll exile Glissa Sunslayer and Old Rutstein. The greatest mana value between them is 3, so he'll draw 3 and lose 3. Shelby will then cast Kethis again, and this time he enters with a 1/1 counter, and now every time a creature ETBs, he'll draw 2 cards. And he did use the Great Henge, so he'll gain 2 life. He'll then just pass the turn to Seth.
Discard a Relic of Legends, a Sandstep Citadel, I guess a Crop Rotation.
And then we'll move to Seth's turn, where he starts off with a Hardened Scales. Then he'll pass to Alex, who casts Op, scrying 1 to the bottom and drawing a card. On Instep, by the way. And then still on Instep, he'll cast Decaying Time Loop to discard 3 cards and draw 3. Then he'll move to his turn, and on upkeep, his suspended cards tick down, and he'll draw an additional card. After this, Alex will tap for 3 and attempt to Chaos Warp Shieldred. Shelby will respond by casting Mythos of Nethroi, targeting his Shieldred, then he'll hold priority and sacrifice Safi to target Shieldred so she'll come back after this. Alex will respond to this by discarding an island to retrace Decaying Time Loop, to discard another 3 cards and draw another 3. Alex doesn't find anything to stop this though, so Shelby's stack resolves and Shieldred comes back, and the Chaos Warp loses its target, so it fizzles. And since Shieldred re-enters the battlefield, he'll draw 2 cards and she'll get a counter. Then after this, Alex will cast a Rhystic Study and pass to Jason, who understandably does not pay any life to Sylvan Library, and he'll sacrifice his Delighted Halfling to Shieldred. Then the Duke is tapped with Holdout Settlement for a green mana, draw and gain, and then he'll cast Cerulean Caretaker. He'll then drop Turn Timber Symbiosis. Unfortunately, he doesn't get a great hit though. The only creature he hits is Lauren of the Third Path. But honestly, it's not that bad because she blows up the Great Henge and gets 3 additional 1/1 counters.
And also, no Rhystic Studies have been paid. Jason will then pass the turn to Shelby, who stops on Instep, and it's a little hard to see, but he'll tap his Soul Ring to activate Thespian Stage to make it a copy of Dark Depths without counters. Legend Rule hits, and Shelby sacrifices the one with counters, and then the Thespian Stage one will create a Merit Lodge. Then we'll move to Shelby's turn, and on upkeep, Shieldred brings back her BFF, Safi Eriksdottir. Then Shelby will cast Urza's Ruinous Blast. He does pay the 1, and then he'll float mana with his Arcane Signet. And yeah, that does resolve, so all non-legendary, non-land permanents are exiled. Then just to add insult to injury, Shelby will cast Elish Norn, Grand Cenobite. And then just to make sure everybody is as dead as he can possibly get them, he'll cast Flowering of the White Tree, giving them all +2/+1 and Ward 1. He'll then move to combat, and he swings a 24 power Merit Lodge at Jason, 18 damage at Alex with Shieldred and Massacre Girl, and then everything else at Seth for 12. Jason desperately tries to see if he can make Shelby gain 20 real quick by cracking his Canopy Vista to draw a card, but he cannot, so he and Alex are dead in combat. Shelby will then pass the turn to Seth, and he draws his last pathetic cards and says, Yeah, man, I'm super dead. I scoop. That was my Seth impression. And that makes Shelby and Kethis the winners! Welcome one, welcome all to the end of the video. First of all, I'd like to apologize. I've had bad allergies this week, but I can't just not make a video for you guys. I hope you all still enjoyed it. It was really fun to see Shelby stomp somebody. He just had legend after legend after legend that just took over the game. Anyways, let us know what you guys thought down in the comments below. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. But that's enough out of me. I'm gonna go rest. I hope you all have a smooth day.